I've got someone now, when they're talking about 40 million people watching, that is just in an hour on this man's YouTube channel. He is the voice of reason. He's Alex Belfield. Give him a clap, studio. Wow. That's a standing ovation, Alex.
That's a warm hand, isn't it? Do you know what's interesting? Never mind the papers today. Your beef Wellington, 5 stars.
Yeah.
Last time I had it was at Claridge's with Gordon Ramsay, and I sent it back because he'd got a soggy bottom. No soggy bottom in your house.
No soggy bottom. No, it's because I burnt it. So it was a good old night. Alex, just before we start looking at the news, and I know you're an expert at this, you must get up every morning at 5 o'clock and read every little bit of news there is, and then go on and comment about it on your YouTube channel. How do people subscribe to your YouTube channel? Tell us how you do that.
Well, you just go to the Voice of Reason, put it into Google, but it's relentless. I mean, the papers are just full, and it's hypocrisy. I think that's where we're at now. I mean, we've got this paper here. I wouldn't wipe my arse with this. But
Really?
this is the most read paper at the BBC, right? So it's in the Mail today that the most read paper is The Guardian and The Observer.
Yeah.
And this is a lefty paper.
It is.
That is read by no one. These are the papers that are read by everyone, but they're not represented. And I think where your channel has taken off and my channel has taken off is that there's this huge majority of people who are not represented by the people in the media. And they don't want to admit that the 2 most read papers are The Sun and the Mail. They're not read at the BBC, yet the BBC are feeding us this stuff every day. And I think what you've seen on your channel, and certainly mine, there's a few of us doing it. We've sort of taken off on the back of people are just pissed off.
Yeah.
And they're pissed off at things like this.
What's
MPs
this?
who go on trains.
Oh, yeah.
And she says it's a blip.
What's she mean by that, a blip?
Well,
There's no excuse, is there? She's got to Convid, she's got on a train, gone to Scotland, come back. What is the story?
Well, the story is SMP comes down thinking she might have it, but then tells herself she hasn't. Goes and gets a test and find out she has. Then she goes to the gym, cafes, restaurants, gets on a train and goes back to fucking Scotland and says it's a blip. Now, if you and I did that, we'd probably have coppers knocking on our door and get a £10,000 fine.
Yeah. What's happened to her?
Nothing. She says it's a blip. She says, couldn't think clearly after the virus. So our excuse is when we're still in the pub tonight at 11 o'clock, I couldn't think straight because I've got the virus and I'm pissed. That's now that's a legal excuse from an MP. It's outrageous. And I think, you know, last night we saw Matt Hancock's back in the paper. He stayed in the parliamentary bar until 10:25.
Oh, my God. So they want him...
Well, but the point is...
Well, who knows? Who's in there with him?
Well,
there's a load of journalists in there. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll stay here until... we'll give you a front page. But you buy me a pint.
You can't have the double standard where at 3 minutes past 10 in the West End, a burger van's being fined £1,000 for selling a burger at 3 minutes past 10. But it's OK for him to finish his wine in Parliament. We're being kicked out. This has been a total mess for the entire nation. People are getting pissed because they start earlier, rush towards the end, and at 9:59, these people are so paranoid that there's going to be a copper stood outside to give them a 10 grand fine. £10,000 for going a minute over. Yet this is the kind of stuff that makes this country pull their hair out.
And what's going to happen to her?
Nothing.
She's lost the whip.
Well, she needs the whip. That's what she needs.
And what's Fun Davidson woman said about it?
Well,
the Scottish
Jeanette McCranky, she says nothing. Because this is just the double standards of politicians. So this woman has been suspended, but refuses to resign. And she still hasn't resigned. So what we've got a situation of is where everybody's got an excuse for everything other than us. The front page of the Sunday Mirror. Another 4 examples of hypocrisy and these double standards that you and I can't live by because the police will knock on our door or they'll fine us. But these people who are being paid by us seemingly get away with it. I think we've had enough. And the nation, I don't think, can take any more of lockdown Britain.
Lockdown Britain is a bit much. You know what I thought that was? I thought, who was the leader of the Conservatives in Scotland? Anyway, she said to me, I come to saw you, Jim, down in Bournemouth when I was about 14. My parents took me. I said, well, surely you wouldn't be allowed in. I was a very big 14. And
she's a big woman now.
I sneaked in, and she said, you did an interesting routine about searching for the clitoris. Right, and because she is a lesbian, I thought, should I say it? I bet you found a few since. I didn't have the...
Hey, listen, you mentioned clitoris, right? Because I've been married to Sharon, right, for years, for about 20 years, right? And 20 years, I could never find the clitoris, never find it. And then I found out that the sister had it all the time.
It was the licorice you were looking for.
Oh, the licorice.
The
that's
licorice. The licorice.
Oh, man. I've got to get down to the pub. It's nearly 10 o'clock, mate. I'll tell you something, mate. You can't fucking drink when you got what I got.
What you got?
No fucking money. Sharon!
I don't know who he is. He followed us in.
It's a strange crowd, isn't it?
It is a strange crowd here, yeah. It's one of these places where people just sort of turn up. We'll be seeing Bobby Davro later in another guise, and he says he's brought his cock with him, so stand by. so stand by with that.
He was playing with it last night, wasn't he?
Does Matt Hancock seriously... Yes, he was. Does Matt Hancock seriously think that he can just stand there in the bar till 11:30 or whatever it is, or how many hours he was in the bar, and get away with it, or what?
Well, they do, and this man, this is the story here.
Yeah.
It's, again, the sanctimony of this man. I don't think there's ever been a less charming politician in the history of Parliament that can stand there with this sort of supercilious sort of BBC manager, you know, I'm not answering your question. You don't have a choice not to answer our questions. You choose to be there. You're paid what you're paid. We'll ask you questions. And he said, I'm not answering that. No, I'm not answering that. You're going to stay in your house until 10 o'clock.
So besides that,
yes,
how do you think he's dealing with this, the convids?
Quite appallingly, because we've got an interesting story today that isn't in any newspaper because they're very reluctant. You see, what you've got going on with mainstream media is these people are trying to sell papers, and you sell papers through negativity and fear, not through reality. So all of these people have got an agenda, but there's a story that I think is really interesting in Florida. Their governor 3 weeks ago said, no masks, as you were, no lockdown, no rules, carry on. Now, we know because they've told us the science. Do you remember in the beginning when they talked about the science? It was all about the science. Yeah, we don't talk about the science. Because the science they don't like. For example, guess how many people under 20 have died with no pre-existing condition since February?
You tell me.
4. Right? 4.
In our country?
In this country since February, 4 people have died without a pre-existing under 20. So why are we worried about the universities? These people aren't at risk. They're seriously not. If we look at Northumbria, 770, I think Nottingham's got 500. There's nobody seriously ill. Most don't even have symptoms. A few are a little bit poorly. None of them have gone to ICU, and none of them have died. So what Florida's done is this test where they go, OK, let's try it. Guess what's happened in Florida? Nothing has happened in Florida. They've got the same level of infection.
Yeah.
People are going about their business, and they're open for business. And the balance between this, and of course, those who've died has been a tragedy, but guess the average age of those who've died in this country? 82.2 years old.
Yeah.
It's
well, isn't that the problem, though, Alex, is that, OK, so the students can all go and dance in Trafalgar Square and do whatever they want because they're not going to die, but they could be carriers of it and go home and kill granddad and grandma.
Of course. But how many university students do you know, 2 weeks after starting, go and see their Auntie Fanny or their mum and dad? They're there trying to get laid bonking each other. That's why they've got all this infection, and so they should be. That's the point of Freshers' Week. But to punish them when they're at no risk, I mean... Last year, 1,500 people died in car crashes in this country. Less than 600 people under 60 have died in this country since February of the Kung flu without a pre-existing condition.
Well, how's Trump got better?
Well, but most people do get
Why
better.
Brexit Britain needs Trump? Yeah, we'll talk about Brexit in a second if you want, but Trump has now got better and he can go and speak to people. In 3 days, I got it. It was a thing from God. Thank God I got it. I went to see it. I'm now better. I don't know what they've given him.
Well, he's still at risk, and I think what he needs to be very careful of is being cocky before you're fully out of that 2-week zone, because they reckon within 2 weeks you can suddenly dip. He's also on so much medication. I mean, I'm a fan of Trump, but I think what you have to be careful of is when you've got 20 doctors who are at your beck and call, it's very easy to be cocky about your situation. You and I, if we were to get it now, how are we going to... I mean, it takes 2 hours for an ambulance to arrive. So it's different when you're in the White House and you've got your own hospital to yourself. I worry about Mr. Biggins at the end of the road. I don't mean Christopher. although he is quite old.
He is quite old, and he's moaning like mad about Khan as well, because he said that Khan, the little funny mayor like that, has fucked up the whole of London because of the cycle lanes everywhere. You can't get anywhere now by car.
Well, Sadiq Khan needs to go, because Sadiq Khan has made the fatal error of admitting weakness. So when the Kung Flu happened, he said he dealt with London badly, our capital city, by the way, because of his mental illness. Now, I'm not mocking anyone's mental illness, but all I'm saying is if you're mental ill, being mayor of London is not the job for you. We need him on zip wires, flying in, getting stuck, ending up with flags, going around the world looking like a hero. We don't need him sat there going, boo-hoo-hoo,
But wasn't that when
closed.
Boris was at his best, when he was doing all them
That's
mental
what we
things?
love.
He can't do it now,
No.
because he's basically the chief executive, isn't he?
Of course, and this is where we lose. But why was he voted in? Because we like the characters and personalities, i.e. you, saying it as it is. And then they get the job and suddenly he's saying nothing. And I think that's the big problem that Boris is going to face, is we don't recognise him. He's devoid of what we loved about him, which was his naughtiness, cheekiness, and two fingers up.
Yeah.
To the left, really. That was what
That's
got
what
him
it
in.
was. You'd think he'd actually go on and face Piers Morgan, wouldn't you? Because there's not a lot of people going on there.
Well,
at
he's
the
going to
moment.
get sacked.
Who, Piers Morgan?
Of course, and he has to.
Well,
be.
he's off his fucking head.
Well, he's also...
I should give it to you. You should do it. Me and you, we should be there at the thing.
This
Hello.
is the future of television. But I tell you that, poor Suzanne, she's like a beaten wife, sat there. I mean, we're having to wear these face muzzles. She sat there in a gimp mask because he won't let her get a word in edgeways.
She does try, though, doesn't she? She does have a go.
Yeah, well, women tend to do that. But you see, morbidly obese Morgan, who sits there, if he got the Kung Flu at 42 stone, he'd be the first to peg it, and that's why he's keeping his gob shut. He's just taking his money and running. But I'm telling you that ITV will get rid of him when the politician... He's reading out what the politicians are saying on BBC and Sky News because they won't talk to him. Imagine. I mean, it's untenable.
Why would they talk to him? I saw him the other day. All they did was just argue. Just arguing all the time. You know, they find these new little professors from somewhere. They find one in that corner as a little alien professor with the big head like this saying, we should not do this, or herd immunity. Then they find someone else to argue. Then they find a BAME person, no matter what, anyone who walks past who's not particularly gammon white. Do you want to be on the fucking telly? In they come. And they just argue all the time. Argue, argue, argue. What is it with television that's tending now, the pendulum has swung so far the other way, like Black Lives Matter. One good thing that's come out of the Black Lives Matter, there are the people are saying we need more black people on television, we need more Asian people on television. But Christ, it's now gone mental. You know the figures, you know all this
We
shit.
need a representation of BAME people, of course, which is about 13% in this country. But the BBC's targets are 15%, and they're beating them, yet they've just signed a cheque for £100 million to get more BAME people on for no reason. I mean, look at Strictly. We've got 2 women hosting it. We've got 2 women on the panel, 2 gay men on the panel, and the most diverse load of dancers you've ever seen. Where is the problem? On Britain's Got Talent, they're moaning about diversity literally, even though the guy from Diversity is doing the BLM dance. And by the way, Sajid Javid this week said that they are not a force for good. And Priti Patel, who's in the papers today, she said they're hooligans, BLM. Now, who do we believe, ITV and Ofcom, or Alicia Dixon with a nice necklace?
Now you're talking. I'd like her necklace.
Would you?
Yeah.
Pearl necklace.
I'm not going there. He said it, not me. He said it. Yeah. He said it, not me.
Moments like this, you want Ozzy walking past, isn't it?
Do you know what, though? The BBC are so politically correct. Do you remember that thing I did called Big Break?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, with John Virgo. John was the world's worst at reading the autocue. I think he used to smoke them Jamaican ready rubbed. And he'd be looking at the camera like that. Very nice to be here. Thank you, Jim, comma. Waits for Jim to speak.
Tell you, the ITV are the worst at it at the minute. You've only got to watch these daytime shows. I did warm-up on Loose Women for a bit, for 2 years, and there's 2 problems with that programme. One, the over-talking of these women.
That's the fucking big
You
problem.
think Piers Morgan's bad? You put 4 women in a room and give them a microphone, they all start talking, and I'd stand there going, I can't hear a fucking word any of you are saying. And the producers say, yap, yap, yap for an hour, that's fine. Now, of course, they've got to try and get diversity on, so they're bringing in anybody they can find. But here's my thing. Can't we just go back to the best person getting it? And if they happen to be white...
You can't do it. You can't do that.
Well,
this is the way the world is going. If there are people breaking the law, if you're not white, let them get on with it. That's it. The police cannot now stop and search or arrest anyone that's not a white old gammon. Otherwise, they're thinking, oh, fuck, I'm going to be in trouble here. I've got to have the police independent review board fucking following me around. So I think what the police are going to do, they're going to ignore people that they're going to get in trouble with, and that is the way forward. As I said, wrongly quoted in the newspapers, there are more mixed race couples on the television now than there ever was before, and that is a good thing. I didn't complain that there's not enough white couples on there, but you can't go in and buy a fucking sofa now unless you've got a black wife or unless you're black with a white woman. The only person that can buy a sofa now is a fucking zebra because he's black or what now. Is a zebra a black animal with white stripes or a white animal with black stripes? Really, he doesn't give a fuck. He's just a zebra. Okay.
Just very finally, I'm not going to agree with you or disagree with you because there's a very worrying story that broke on Friday.
Go on.
That a guy who does the same thing we do on YouTube, called Darren Grimes, is being questioned by the police because he nodded at a man who the police believe was racist on his show. The police are now coming to arrest people who are doing YouTube programs and interviews on free speech. And just to leave you with this, it's the most worrying story in the papers today that the police are now doing civil work for defamation, libel, and what we can and can't say. And there's a very great possibility after this chat, one of us is going to be banged up and locked up for what we might say on our channel, simply because it doesn't fit with the lefties who don't like it. And this is the future, and it's incredibly worrying.
Well, it is incredibly worrying, but really, I don't think it's what we say. I think it's what other people report what we say. Do you not think?
But why are the police the Met police knocking on this man's door to question him over doing an interview? It's incredibly worrying.
What colour is he?
Well, he's not black.
Well, if he was black, then they wouldn't get a knock on the door, would he? Because there's a chance that someone said, oh, you arrested me because you're racist.
How's
That's the
BLM
problem.
going for everybody? It seems we're in more of a mess now
I like
than we've
BLM.
ever been.
I like BLM. If I was black, I'd be right out front. I'd have fucking Rastafarian, I'd have a fucking joint like that. I'd be the blackest black person in the world. I'd be proud of it, and I'd really
Did
piss...
somebody mention joints?
Oh, dear,
Christ,
he
he's
is
back
again.
again. Oh.
I had a bit of a problem with that stuff, you know. And it's in the newspaper, you've got a problem with joints.
What?
Thrown up
Let me sit up here,
Hang on a
right?
minute.
And you sit there. Don't you do
I'm
social
not acting
distancing?
either.
Oh, I can't
Hey,
touch
mate,
you.
how are
I
you?
can't touch
Oh,
you because of the old kung flu.
It's top man, yeah. It's
Yeah,
top man.
thank you,
It's not
yeah.
you, the jacket. It's
Oh,
top man. Mate. It's top man. I'll sit down here for a minute, James.
Okay.
Hey, listen. How do you get your wife to go all night long?
I don't know.
A bit of duct tape. Right.
Now, Ozzy, do you study what's been going on? You know Alex. You watch Alex's channel.
Yeah. I watch it all the time. I love it on the internet.
So you're up to
Right.
date
The
with
Observer.
what's going on in the world. What do you think of Trump?
Well, I think he's great, you know, because I had the condom thing. And I was I was in hospital, and I said to the doctor, my coat, I said, excuse me, love, I said, what's the best thing to cure coronavirus? She said, ammonia cleaner. I said, well, go and get the fucking doctor then. Ammonia cleaner.
I got it the first time. So if we were to ask you questions about current events,
Yes.
would you have
Hey,
the
I'm pretty
answers?
clever, me, you know.
I know you're clever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to take my cock out to count to 11. Question, I want to go on that programme, you know. What's the question thing?
Yeah, mastermind.
Masturbate.
Mastermind. Not masturbate. That's
Well,
it.
that's it.
Okay then. So let's ask you some questions as if it's mastermind.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Okay.
sweating like fucking Eamon Holmes in a salad bar. Right, go on then.
What is the closest thing to silver?
Well, Lone Ranger's arse.
How,
What?
how did Michael Jackson pick his nose?
Oh, from a catalogue.
What's the difference between a pickpocket and a peeping Tom?
One snatches watches. Next question. I didn't fucking think about that one then.
Who was the first person to fly the Atlantic?
Oh, hang on. Linford Christie.
No, it was all cock and brown.
That's the same fucking thing, isn't it? Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say that one?
What's the difference between light and hard?
Oh, I can sleep with the lights on.
What's the difference between a penis and a bonus?
Oh, showering a blow me bonus.
And lastly, before you bugger off, see if you can find Bobby Davro for me. I want to
Yeah,
speak to
I'll
him.
go
in a
have a
minute.
word with him, right?
Will you-
Go on.
What's the difference between... between ignorance and apathy?
The difference between ignorance and apathy?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, and I don't fucking care. I'm off. I'll see you later, mate.
Ozzy Osbourne, ladies and gentlemen.
Rock and roll, Sharon! Oh, it's great to see you back in men's clothes again.
Thanks, mate. I'll sue you.
Everyone's suing everybody. No one's allowed to say anything. And when you do say something, the newspapers catch it, don't they? And they just make it up.
Do you care?
Yeah, do you know what? Do you know what I care about? I don't like the fact that that if you say something, the newspapers will take what you've said, so it's controversial enough, but it's not controversial enough for them, so they alter it.
Right.
They make it like, for instance, what we were talking about before, and I said it's a good thing. BLM have made producers, rightly or wrongly, there's more mixed race couples on television, on the adverts. And so the independent newspaper quote was Jim Davidson's racist rant complains there's not enough white couples. And that's not what I said at all. So that's the annoying bit.
I
Anyway.
suppose it's just lucky nobody reads that newspaper, isn't it?
Well, I mean, really, I don't know what the newspapers are all about. And we look at them here. I don't particularly like reading them. I have to read them so I can make comment on them. I like watching. You talk a lot of sense. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who've not seen Alex, you've got to go onto YouTube and just click Alex Belfield. You'll have a whale of a time. And he does make me look like Mother Teresa, okay?